Hello, my sweet friends. This is Tracy. Welcome to my Homespun Gingerbread Wreath. Guys, I am pulling out an oldie but a goodie. I used to make my wreath bases like this. It's my Rustic Burlap wreaths that I used to make before I discovered the 10-inch deco mesh. So I'm bringing back an oldie but a goodie just to share this sweet Christmas wreath. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. And as always, I will have the timestamps listed in the description box if you would like to hop to the next part of the video. Here are the supplies for this project. I'm using this chip decor sign from Hobby Lobby, as well as the gingerbread man from Dollar Tree, some crackle, and some brown cinnamon paint. All right, let me show you how I painted the sign. So this chip decor sign is from Hobby Lobby, and I just am giving it a coat of cinnamon brown paint. I'm going to use some crackle. This is the Crackle Medium by Folk Art, and I just take my sponge brush and just go around and just make sure that it's really thick, because I do feel that that gives me the best cracks if I get it thick. So it's dry now. It took a few hours. I let it dry overnight. So I have this large brush that I also got from Hobby Lobby and some buttermilk paint, and I just went over it, and then it cracked as well as it did. I didn't really stress about it. I wasn't too happy with it, but we're just going to go with that. All right, so then I'm just taking a flat paintbrush and just going around, just eyeballing it just to give it a border. Now, one could, get your ruler out and, just pencil it off, but I just kind of eyeballed it. So then now I'm taking another flat paintbrush, just going around giving it some stripes, and then I'm going to write out hand letter Christmas joy. Now I did what I'm doing now is like air drawing it. That's what I always advise, suggest to people who want to hand letter, but I got my letters a little too big. So I was going to write Christmas wishes, but that didn't turn out. So I ended up going with Christmas joy. Even though I'm using the number 2 flat paintbrush, which I do most often when I'm doing my hand lettering, I did get off a bit, and so we just kind of went with it. I did not want to repaint this sign, so I just ended up writing joy to have Christmas joy, because Christmas is all about joy. The joy of the Lord is in our hearts. Guys, as always, the free fonts are in the link tree in the description box if that is something that you're interested in, to find free fonts that you can practice. Just download them from dafont.com and then practice to make your words. Okay, so then now I am going to use this holly green paint by Americana, and then I'm also using a brush. I think this was maybe a little round brush. I just kind of like eyeball it, and I'm giving it a shadowing, and I know I'm just going to kind of like let this flow here and kind of show you how I just go and turn this sign into a Christmas candy, Christmas joy sign. I'm using an ivory color Posca paint marker. You can find these in my Amazon shop, which is also linked in my link tree. And so now I am just going in between the green and the red just to make the letters pop. Now, these Posca pens are paint pens, but I am going to be using a spray varnish sealer, because if I use my liquid sealer, it does tend to smear, and so I'm going to use a spray varnish so that I do not have any smearing for my project. I am also going to show you how I correct some little errors. I get some of my letters a little too close, so I just take my detail brush just to go through and just give it a little bit of the color of the background paint, and then that kind of helps with distinguishing the letters, if I can get through there. If not, then I just kind of let it go. And so then now what I'm going to do is actually take that ivory Posca. It's a 5M. It's the largest one. And I'm just going and just making my candy, my hard candy Christmas sign. That is what I'm calling it. Then I'm going to take that large paintbrush and I'm dipping it in some red paint and going in between the stripes just to give it just some extra color. So then now I take my fine Sharpie marker, just going through and highlighting a bit and just give it the black outline. I really feel that that makes my letters pop. So then I'm taking my flat paintbrush and my favorite shading method by dipping my half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water. I blend on a paper towel and then I'm just shading around my sign. And so then I take a stylus and I'm dipping it in that buttermilk paint just to give it a dot kind of on the side of those red dots in the around the sign. So then I do the same thing by adding a dot to the middle of my happy dots. So I'm taking my detailing brush, just going around and just giving it some little squiggles around just to kind of separate the borders and just enhance the sign. It's just really fun to see this Christmas candy sign come to life. And then of course I give it some brown of the splatter as well as some of the buttermilk splatter. Okay, so then for my gingerbread, this gingerbread man came from the Dollar Tree and I wanted to use the back of it. The Dollar Tree gingerbread man has the raised things on it, so I just take my heat tool and get those off. I'm going to use the back of it anyway, but I didn't want those raised areas. And I'm using some spackle to cover up the hole from the little hanger because I didn't want that. And then I give it 2 coats of the cinnamon color acrylic paint. That is how I painted my gingerbread. And then I'm going to give it some black shading. And so I do that just with a thinner flat paintbrush, a smaller flat paintbrush. Just go around and just give it some shading. I like the black on it. I really feel that it just kind of makes it pop when I get all of my stuff finished and just really bring him to life. For the cheeks, I'm using Barn Red acrylic paint, and I just stipple that on just to give him some cheeks. Then I'm just using my black fine Sharpie marker just to draw out the eyes. I like the more almond-shaped eyes. You could also use the end of a paintbrush or a marker just to give it 2 dots, whatever look that you like, but this is what I like. I trace it out in the black marker, then I go back in and fill it in with my black paint. And so then for the enhancements, I'm using buttermilk acrylic paint, and just with a flat paintbrush, I'm just going to start bringing him to life just by adding some icing on the legs and the arms. And I use my detailing brush just to give it some thin lines. I also use that number 2 flat paintbrush just to give it the icing around the head. And it's just so fun to just use paint and bring these little characters to life. I'm just giving some squiggles and some doodles around my gingerbread just to, just enhance him a bit more. That little red heart, that's more of a primitive heart, a wooden heart that I had on hand. I didn't have the package, so I'm not quite sure. I had them on hand for quite a long time. But, maybe you can find, if you're interested in those longer hearts like that, maybe somewhere where wooden hearts are sold. And so then I'm just adding some of the finishing touches, adding some splatters. And when I was going to detail a little bit, got my hand in there. So I just cover it up with paint, no problem. Because the things are going to happen. But as I always say, the beauty is in the detail. And so I just give a little sanding to my red heart, and that red heart I actually painted it with primary red, and then I'm going to just glue that there in the middle. I'm going to put this to the side because I'm going to share next how I make my rustic burlap bases for my wreaths. Now it's been a little bit since I've shared one of these, but what I did, guys, is I cut some strips of burlap fabric, and what I'm showing you there with my hand, I took them outside, guys. And anytime I work with cut burlap like this, I always wear a mask because the burlap has a lot of fibers and strings, and I don't want to breathe that. So I'm just using some pipe cleaners. Now, I know I'm going a little bit fast here, but I do have a slow down step-by-step tutorial. I will link to it in the iCard as well as in the description box below if you need a slower in-step version, step-by-step of how I make my rustic burlap basis. Again, it's been a little bit since I have done one of these, and so I'm bringing it out back again just to share because I wanted to show a little bit different. So I'm just taking a pipe cleaner, just threading that through. I cut off 6 inches of burlap. I just buy them off of the bolt at the Hobby Lobby, or Walmart has it as well. And so I just cut 6-inch strips, and so then I'm just kind of doing like a bubble technique, but I took them outside to get the rustic feel of it. I took them outside and I just ran my hand over it so that it would kind of fray a little bit. As I said, I always wear my mask because I do not want to breathe those fibers. And so again, if you want a step-by-step slower version, look for the link and I will show you exactly how I do this just by using a wire form from the Dollar Tree, and then I just twist it, just make little bubbles like this, kind of going back and forth just to give it a rustic look for my little Christmas Joy gingerbread wreath. And then this is how this wreath looks. Now I used 10 6-inch strips for this particular rustic burlap base. All right, here are the homespun patterns that I'm using. They all came from Hobby Lobby. So then I just cut off strips of that, tearing it because I like the torn ragged edges. And then that is what I'm going to tie onto my burlap base. In between some of the burlap, I'm just going to tie strips on there. Now, it wasn't quite enough once I got them tied on. So then I'm going to show you how I kind of make it a little bit more full with the homespun fabric. I just tie knots on the in some of the homespun, and then I'm just going to just attach them with some rusty safety pins that I had gotten a package of silver safety pins from Walmart, and then I used my friend Linda, who is Faith Chick 777. I used her technique of rusting small metals, and so then the rusty safety pins are wonderful to attach some of my rustic or homespun bows. And then also I'm going to go back later and add some jingle bells also to this wreath with some of those rusty safety pins. Look for Linda's technique or her video. I will have a link for it in the description box below. Again, to attach these homespun fabric pieces onto this wreath, what I'm doing is going in between the burlap and then actually slipping underneath that wire frame, and then that is how I am attaching this homespun fabric, and I'm just kind of trying to alternate them so they're not clumped up together or have certain patterns together. I just kind of alternate these three. It just looks so pretty with all of this burlap and homespun fabric. It just looks so pretty. Okay, so then now I'm going to attach my sign, and I totally changed my mind when it came to how I was going to attach the sign. I was going to put it, on the side and then have the gingerbread on the side. But as I was kind of laying it out, I was like, oh, that would look cute just like that. But then I was covering up his legs. So then I'm like, oh, what can I do? So I'm going to be doing a little surgery. So don't cringe, okay? Because no gingerbread men were hurt in this process. So I'm just taking Mike's box blade from the Dollar Tree, and I just I just cut him in half, and like where I wanted, like underneath that red heart. I probably would have done it a little bit different if I would not have already glued the heart on there, but it turned out really cute. And so just by scoring that on my mat, I am able to, softly and protectively get my gingerbread man apart. Okay, so then I'm laying out my sign the way that I need to. Now, I don't want him to look odd, with his legs like that. That looks really weird. So I end up, gluing it where I think that it looks nice. And I just love this, the way that, it turned out. Probably if I would have decided to, when I first started with the sign, I had a different vision. But then once it all came together, we just kind of roll with the flow. And so then see, now it just looks like he's a taller gingerbread man. And I think he looks so cute. Yeah, just like that, guys. He does. He just looks so cute. Okay, so to attach him, I'm using those 1-inch cable ties, they get from Amazon. And so that is what I attach to the back of him. Just put several on those and just use pipe cleaners to attach him to the frame so that he is all nice and secure. So here is where I go back and I make some bows out of the homespun. I had torn off more strips than what I needed, so I made little knots in them, and so I'm just attaching small safety pins. Again, if you're interested in the video of rusting small metals, look for the description, or look in the description box below. And so then I just attach them with the safety pins right through the burlap, just right on top, and it just turned out wonderful. So for the neck of my gingerbread, I just have this coordinating piece of homespun. Now I've had this homespun on hand for several years, so I'm not quite sure where I got that from, but you can check Hobby Lobby, or JubileeFabrics.com is another great place to find homespun fabric. Okay, this is what I use to cover the back of my wreaths, as well as use some grapevine wire. Both of these came from Hobby Lobby. Okay, now guys, I have had some of these muslin homespun peppermints on hand for a few years. I've had some of these. My sweet mother-in-law made me some of these as bowl fillers, and I love them so much. So I decided to use some of those safety pins, attach them to the burlap, as well as some jingle bells. Now these are 30 millimeter jingle bells that came from Hobby Lobby. And the peppermints, I know that I'm going to get questions about that. My sweet mother-in-law made those for me a long time ago, but they don't look that hard. It just looks like she sewed them and just added some gingham check fabric. And then what I did is I just added some glitter to the top of them, and I just love them so much. And I love, just attaching the jingle bells to this burlap wreath. I also stuck in a couple of my homespun candy canes that I had on hand. I do have a video for those, so I will have a link in the description for my homespun candy canes. Guys, those turned out so cute. Isn't this wreath adorable? I just cut off sprigs of greenery and just glued it in between the burlap, and this Christmas joy wreath just really brings joy to my heart. See, I told you, no gingerbread men were harmed in this process because he is so happy. Look at his or her little face, just a big smile on her face. And I just love it so much. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Here are more videos that you may like. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. God bless you, and we will see you in the next video.